Hello and welcome to another episode of the Stretty Cast. This will also be streamed across on YouTube on Stretty News TV as well. A bigger panel than usual. We have a bit of a streak and we were planning to record this with 4 people. Myself, Leah, who's a familiar voice, Philip, who's becoming a familiar voice. We also have Aaron for the first time. And the streaker himself for 10 minutes. We've Matt. Matt, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. I've got my top on for you, though.
Good stuff. So we planned this with a range of Stretty News writers. As you can imagine, with Matt, he was bulling to get on and hacked through the Zoom software to join us. Leah, it was a busy weekend for you on the blog course covering the 5-2 win over Bournemouth. How did it go? Your first kind of real match on shift with the blog. How did it go?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a bit stressful. 7-goal game. I don't know who needed the drinks break more.
You were kept on your toes, though.
Just a bit.
Philip, how did you make it a game over the weekend? Obviously happy to keep the unbeaten run going, 3 points on the board, and suppose closing in that top 3 spot, not just top 4.
Yeah, it was strange in a sense because we scored 5 goals, but it was kind of disappointing at the end that we didn't make up ground in terms of goal difference on the likes of Leicester and Chelsea.
Aaron, obviously you kind of do opinion takes after games in the blog. What was your kind of big opinion on this match?
I think it was a really good game, one of the most exciting I've seen in a while. United went down in the beginning, and I think the game really showed a lot of United's strengths, but also some of the weaknesses, right? Like, I think, for example, defensively early in the match, multiple players getting caught out for the first goal, and it just shows one individual error can kind of build up to a couple after I think it was Lindelof doesn't deal with the header, and then Maguire's beaten at the near post, and then De Gea as well. Kind of the ball's allowed to squeeze near him, and you begin to see how teams kind of set up to play against United, and I think a lot of teams will use that template that Bournemouth used in the early few minutes of just kind of trying to not allow Pogba and Fernandes space to get on the ball and then breaking on the counter to get past Matic. So.
Although we are free scoring at the moment and obviously put 5 away the weekend, Matt, you'd say the performance against Bournemouth was against a very poor side. And we can see the 2 goals that were very, very sloppy that we could have avoided. But was there also kind of a bit of a blessing that we're playing such a poor side that we put 5 goals past them? You know, without Mason Greenwood, who deserves a mention, he really he was lethal. He was a spark in United's attack.
Yeah, I mean, Bournemouth, they're gone, aren't they? Like, so you can't really read too much into scoring 5 past them, because if we didn't score 5 past them, it would have been a crime. Just like Aaron says, I think that, to be honest with you, I think there's more to get worried about in the future, maybe, especially defensively. We were god awful. Like, Maguire for that first goal was terrible. Roy Keane's calling him a disgrace against Spurs. Well, I thought the defending for that goal against Bournemouth was worse than that.
Why is that, Matt? Because if you read the blog as well in the last few weeks, most of the opinion articles have been coming with the thing that Maguire is the definite centre back. He needs the right fitting partner. Now, this is the second case in about 2 to 3 weeks where he's really let us down. Are we kind of jumping ahead with the assessment of Maguire? I'm not saying he hasn't had a good season. He's been very, very good. But are we kind of jumping ahead with the whole thing that he's the definite centre back? Because he's making big mistakes.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we paid 80 million quid for him. I've never been his biggest advocate, especially for that kind of money. This twat is going to reverse into me. Sorry. I'm sat in the car park.
Stretty News TV right from the car park. You're after muting your mic there, Matt. I think Matt, you're after muting your mic. Right, we'll let him continue. Leah. So defensively, what Matt was saying was Harry Maguire. Look, he's been at fault a lot the last few weeks. Obviously, again the weekend. Do you believe it's more so to do with not having the right partner for him, that he's prone to these mistakes every now and again? He doesn't make them every week.
Yeah, no, he's the type of centre back which breaks that line. I've said it before. 9 out of 10 times he's successful, but on the odd occasion where he's not, he does need that reassurance sat next to him, someone that can cover him behind. Lindelof I rate very highly. I just don't think he's got the physical attributes to be that person. I don't think he's quick enough, and I don't think he's strong enough, and I'm not sure he reads the game quite well enough. So I would say a centre back is probably one of our more of a priority signings than say a right winger.
And obviously the news last night, the manager Matic after signing a new contract till 2023. Aaron, do you think United will be in the market for a younger defensive midfielder this summer? Because since the return of football, Matic has been absolutely brilliant. And I think as well is you can imagine that McTominay will later fill that role and perhaps maybe use the next year or two to learn under him. So United might not be rushing into the market for one of those players when I think a lot of fans have been calling for one.
Yeah, well, I don't think Ole will be in the market for a defensive midfielder. I think he sees Matic as the starting player next season and then McTominay to kind of come in over time. You've heard kind of the reports that Carrick and Matic are supposed to be mentoring McTominay to eventually be that player. I personally would go for a defensive midfielder in the market. I think Matic doesn't really have the stamina to play 40, 50 games in a season. We've seen the effect that has on him. He's as well as he's playing. I still don't think he's the same player he was under Mourinho at Chelsea. And with McTominay, I kind of like him further forward. I like him getting to the edge of the box, taking shots, getting into the box, challenging for duels, being more aggressive, coming out of his position. Whereas Matic is a lot less aggressive and tends to hold back and allow the other midfielders to kind of get forward and win the ball. So for me, they're different types of players, and I would go for a defensive midfielder. But if Ole, Matic, and Carrick think that McTominay can play the role, I mean, who am I to say otherwise, right?
Absolutely. And another debate which should probably come in the next few weeks even stronger, Philip, is the one with Mason Greenwood. And I think another area which United fans have wanted strengthened in the summer is the right winging position, where he kind of played in the right flank against Bournemouth, kind of filled that role. He's not a winger per se. He looks like a centre forward, but it may be an area in which he'll get game time in as he develops and before he becomes that complete centre forward. But do you think if he continues this kind of form, like he's every time he gets in around the box, the ball at his feet, you fancy him to score? And I don't think that's a player you can really take out of a team. So do you really see United maybe spending 60, 70, maybe 80 million on a Jadon Sancho this summer if Greenwood continues this form? He's on, 14, 15 goals this season for an 18-year-old. That's an unbelievable return.
Yeah, because I think Greenwood can actually play in either position across the front three. With the goals on Saturday, you could see that one of them came from the left-hand side, one of them came from the right-hand side. So it actually displays his adaptability. He can play through the centre, he can play on the left wing, he can cut inside on the right. So if you have somebody specialist right winger, it doesn't mean that you automatically exclude Greenwood.
And as well as that, you talk about their stats. I think they've outscored Liverpool's front three, Matt. And you look at our stats alone since January, since the arrival of Bruno Fernandes. I think we're the most informed Premier League team that if you did a table from then to now, we'd be on top. Does that give you a massive sense of encouragement going into next season? Like, we're talking our unbeaten run. All of a sudden, things are kind of clicking into place as midfield partnerships forming. You have the front three really kind of start gunning. Would you think it's ridiculous to claim United win a title next season?
It's a tricky one. It depends who's going to perform and who isn't. A lot hinges on Fernandes and Pogba, I think. I mean, you can't deny that the front three, in spite of inconsistencies and injuries, have been up there. I think City are the only English side to have actually, their front three scored more than ours. So you can't not be excited at the potential. I think you'd be kidding yourself if you weren't looking forward to next season and thinking, at the very, very least, we're going to be the challengers. I think if Greenwood keeps progressing, I think we should add Sancho in there, because it's the harm in having another world-class option up front if we can go out and just buy him. I think we'll be, at the very least, in the conversation next season myself. I really do. And a lot closer than 23 points behind them, like
Yeah.
this year's apparent challenges.
No, absolutely. Hopefully.
Well, there haven't been any challenges, has there?
Leah, a big factor in all of this is, of course, qualifying for the Champions League. And you see the Manchester United team right now. He looks at Pogba. You'd never seen Martial smile as much as he's smiling right now, for example. It's a very happy camp. But that could be totally quenched if we don't get Champions League. A massive thing, I think, about this team is keeping the likes of Pogba happy, keeping him on board, making sure he feels that it's the team clearly that's going the right direction, which I think is the case right now. And if they don't get top four or Champions League but win the Europa League, it's a severe kickback. And that's what might lead this team on to greater things next season, that if they do get Champions League football, the sky is the limit, as Solskjaer said about Mason Greenwood. What do you make between now and the end of the season? What's going to push us over the line and what's going to perhaps see us short?
Dale, just say that again. Sorry, it cut
Sorry,
out.
you just cut out at the end.
Yeah, I suppose between now and the end of the season, Leah, what do you see as being the factor that will make us cross the line, or what do you think could see us perhaps not get there today? You're looking at the kind of defensive errors we're seeing a lot of weeks, and then you're also looking at the promising attack of the trio of Greenwood, Martial and Rashford. You know, there's a lot of things going away, but there's also things in the back of our mind that are making us think, let's not get too confident right now.
I mean, for me, people keep, they're going on about how poor defensively. I think we've conceded something like 6 in 16 games. It's not.
Yeah.
Is it as much of a crisis?
It's not that bad, like.
People, yeah. So I think cut out the a few individual errors. I actually think that out of the back five, our weakest link is probably De Gea. How many points has he dropped us? By individual errors. He dropped 2 against Spurs,
And 2 against Everton.
So I mean, we could probably sit here all afternoon picking out individual errors. So for me, I just think a defensive crisis, which is being made out to be. I think we can keep the momentum very good running on paper. I'm sure there'll be something that happens. It's never as straightforward as that, but. If you said to me, go on and pick your last 5 games, I'd probably pick 3 or 4 of what we've got. So I'm happy with that. And I think top 4 is ours. And I think that will be the priority over Europa League.
I think Matt is cutting in on aisle 5. Matt.
Yeah.
I'm making sure I'm keeping to the one-way system, mate.
Right. Tell us your man of the match from the game from aisle 5.
Oh, Greenwood. No dramas about it.
Leah, I didn't mean to cut across you, Leah, but as he mentioned Mason Greenwood, sum up his performance for us, because he's really kind of the spark in United's light at the moment. He's the one everyone is talking about. Just to give us a break from aisle 5, Leah. Come on, cut in. Leah's no use in the minute. Aaron, Mason Greenwood, the future Manchester United. Obviously, it's hard not to be excited right now.
Oh, I saw the first goal and I was and then the second goal and I was just I don't know what to say. I was thinking about what could I write about Greenwood after the match, and I couldn't think of anything really.
You can see almost the parallels. A lot of people are alluding to his physical growth, from the pandemic, how big and strong he looks, and you can look at that in the same way. Marcus Rashford came back one summer and all of a sudden looked like a man. Cristiano Ronaldo too. 2 players or 3 players here we're talking about at a young age. Everyone knew they have an unbelievably high ceiling. The question now is, and with Solskjaer comparing Greenwood to Rooney, is how far can this kid go? The sky really is the limit.
Well, I mean, I think the Rooney comparison is good, but an even better comparison for me would be Robin van Persie. One of my favorite players in the last few years, and just the way Greenwood strikes the ball, his movement, how clinical he is, it's exactly like Van Persie. I think with Ronaldo and Rashford, I think naturally they're very they're big guys. With Greenwood, he's a bit smaller, but he'll probably grow a little bit, but I think he'll still end up being a bit smaller than Ronaldo and Rashford. But one thing you see is just how clever he is with his finishing, how clever he is with his shots. 2 shots, 2 goals. I think against Brighton was 1 shot, 1 goal. He tends to have those place finishes into the corners. Sometimes they go off the post even. But then you see that when he needs to, he can also just smash the ball. You saw left foot against Bournemouth. He just completely smashed it. Keeper couldn't keep it out. Right foot, same thing. So you're seeing all kinds of finishes. The only thing he's not scoring right now is headers. So when you can put the ball in the back of the net anyway, and with almost every shot you're taking, you're naturally going to be one of the best forwards around.
I do take encouragement from what I've seen of Greenwood in terms that he seems like a young player that wants to improve all aspects of his game. And he won't be happy until he does that. Like Ronaldo, or Ferguson needs to talk about Ronaldo in a sense that like you'd almost tell him to eat something from the ground and it'd make him a better player, and he'd do it. You know, that kind of hunger, and I think that Greenwood has that. He's from the same branch. Before we get just to preview the next game against Aston Villa, because we're running out of time, Philip, I suppose one of the aspects of the game people are kind of focused on is defending. Do you think the Solskjaer will change his lineup defensively going into this game against Villa because of what he's seen against Bournemouth?
It remains to be seen. You have to take into consideration that the second goal that we conceded against Bournemouth, that penalty award was ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, the decisions. That's the thing. The decisions were quite controversial from the game. Before we jump on to what did you make of the handball one, Philip?
It wasn't a handball to begin with. It hit his shoulder.
Agree, lads. Agreed, Aaron.
Yeah. The back pass from Matic was terrible, but it
shouldn't be done in the first place. But
yeah,
it hit his shoulder.
But you see, we're not supposed to be talking about this because the whole introduction of VAR, like, it's supposed to offer some clarity. You know, you can go back.
I don't think it was even checked on VAR, was it?
Was it not checked on VAR? The offside was.
It
was controversial too.
It did go to VAR, but when I was watching the highlight before it went to VAR, like I wouldn't have seen anything with that. I would have to me, it just hit his shoulder, keep going. No need to reverse it and take it back, right? And then even then, his entire body was outside the box. His shoulder was kind of awkwardly stretched back. Like, even if you're going to award it, for me, it's a free kick. But, I mean, they got their lines out and they marked it and they decided it was a penalty, so...
I think those lines can be manipulated in many ways as well, by the way. You can show a line and make it look offside too. Aaron,
I think whatever defensive lineup is going to be played on Thursday or for the rest of the season kind of depends on the team that we're actually going to be facing. Villa don't look very strong in attack.
No,
I think
they don't look strong anywhere at the moment.
No.
So hopefully it's not
a kind of few moments in the second half right against Liverpool where Liverpool gave the ball away and they attacked, but they had nothing going forward really.
Yeah, but you're also playing Liverpool with half a tank now after winning the title, you know, as well. So Aaron, just before we wrap it up, can I get a prediction for the game against Villa? Are we going to continue our unbeaten run?
I'd like to say 3-0 again. We'll go 4-1.
4-1. Okay, Leah, your prediction?
4-0.
Say again?
4-0.
4-0. Philip?
Yeah.
3-1.
3-1. And Matt from the exit from Tesco?
I'm going to go 4-1. I was going to say before Aaron did. You let me score.
Loads of goals so predicted. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win, United. I know I've been given kind of crazy shouts for it.
Anyway.
To be fair, if we concede against Villa, then there are defensive issues. They're awful.
Jack Grealish wonder goal.
Jack Grealish. Watch him. Is that the same Jack Grealish who named his top 10 all time Premier League midfielders without giving Paul Scholes a sniff?
I think he actually being honest.
Right, lads. If you want to say that Gerrard and Lampard are better, all right. I mean, you're wrong, but whatever.
He even had Yaya Toure in there.
Your top 10 and Paul Scholes wasn't in it. Brummies.
Right, lads. Thanks so much for joining us. You can follow the Stretty Cast on Twitter at StrettyCast. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Stretty News. And obviously the blog will go to content, strettynews.com. I will see you again on Thursday with a podcast joined by Mike. We might actually move that to Friday, given that United are playing that on Thursday night. But yeah, updates on Twitter as we get closer to that date. See you soon. Bye.